Welcome, friends. My name is Ghost Clown. Today's drawing is special to me because what I'm drawing here ends up becoming art assets for a game jam. I don't really talk about it on this channel because it's simply not what this channel is about, but I'm an aspiring game developer. I do several game jams a year in a variety of roles. Generally, I'll take on the role of narrative designer and/or programmer, but sometimes I do art as well. This time around, I had my hands in all three, along with some truly spectacular teammates who helped me bring my silly vision to life. As the drawing would imply, the game is called Dippy's Dungeon, and is a point-and-click escape room game created for the Seattle Indie Slow Jam 2022 over the span of a little over 2 weeks. It's free, you can play it via browser, I'll drop some links in the description. Now that my obligatory self-promotion is out of the way, what I'd really like to talk about today is the lore behind the game's story. Because the game is set in a universe that I frequently write in, there's a lot of it. Dippy's Dungeon is set in an amusement park called Hartley Haven in the year 1999. You play as an unnamed teenage delinquent whose two best friends have gone missing after deciding to break into the park after dark to check out a ride called Dippy's Dungeon. The thing about Dippy's Dungeon is that the ride has never been opened. Oh, it's been there since the park was built, and it seems to have been one of the first buildings constructed, but it's only ever just sat there. If anyone asked about it, park employees were informed to tell them that it was coming soon, but no date was ever stated. In fact, the ride was never even advertised. To a first-time park goer, this meant very little, but to the local kids, Dippy's Dungeon became a thing of legend. And it wasn't only that ride. The theme park had something of a dark presence to the once sleepy college town it resided in. There were rumors, you see, people going missing, homeless folks, sex workers, the occasional tourist traveling alone. All people the local sheriff was not especially interested in investigating. After all, they probably just left town. And your two friends, who were last seen sneaking into the premises by you? Well, deadbeat kids run away all the time. This sentiment was echoed by the park's eccentric owner, Buck Hartley. Let's talk a bit about Buck. Buck Hartley was born in 1950. He grew up on a farm. His fondest childhood memories were of hunting deer with his father and uncle. After he graduated high school, he signed up to go to Vietnam. He told everyone he was acting out of patriotism, but that wasn't the real reason. Deep down, he just wanted to know what it was like to kill a man. Buck came back with a Purple Heart, a permanent limp, and PTSD. It turned out, Vietnam wasn't as fun and exciting as he'd imagined it. As he recovered at the family home, he began to draw comic strips. This was the birth of the two characters that I am drawing here, Dippy Deer and Manic Moose. Many more characters were to come, but these were the originals. They had a sort of Goofus and Gallant dynamic, with Dippy being an upstanding fawn, and Manic Moose a wily trickster. Dippy was meant to be the main character and Manic a cautionary foil. But even in these early rudimentary cartoons, Manic was a much more popular character. He was just more fun. Buck had little success in these early years. His work was thought too adult for newspapers and too childish for comic books. But he kept going. He had a vision. And if no one wanted to publish him, he would publish himself. Eventually, Buck's uncle passed and left him a sizable inheritance. He dove in head first. Not only would he make comics, he was going to start his own animation studio. Fast forward to the late 70s, and Buck's work has some real household recognition. The cartoons were cheaply made and poorly animated, but people were watching them. His cast of characters were beloved, and more importantly, they sold merchandise. That's not to say the studio was doing well. Between Buck's poor business sense and the frequent embezzlement to compensate for his gambling problems, the business was basically never in the black. By the late 80s, the money had simply run out. Buck became desperate. His last saving grace was when a rival animation studio swooped in to buy him out. Well, we can call them a rival, but this studio was competent and successful. So, with nowhere else to turn, Buck sold. He did so bitterly, angrily. He never accepted responsibility, of course. It was the fault of the animators, not working hard enough, demanding he pay them. It was the fault of the consumers, not watching enough, not buying enough merchandise. It was the fault of the IRS, the Viet Cong, the bookie down the street, the wife who left him, anybody, everybody. A world full of people who had failed him personally. As for the new studio, they brought Hartley's characters back to life. Under competent leadership, the IP thrived. In particular, Moosteries, an episodic Mystery of the Week cartoon starring Manic Moose, became a smash hit, ran all through the 90s. And old Bitter Buck was mad as hell. He'd tape the videos and watch them over and over again, sitting in the dark, drinking, cursing everyone he'd ever met. And one day, it just came to him, an epiphany. Manic is the one who betrayed him. He'd look at that cartoon Moose and he'd say, "You wily trickster, you got the better of me. Not just me, you've fooled everyone." 1994. Buck had a plan. He sold the family farm, cashed out everything. Then he went to the rival studio and he made them an offer. He would relicense his old characters and build a theme park. He'd take on all the financial burden, do anything that they asked. And out of respect, or perhaps just pity, the studio gave him the green light. And so, Buck began to build. A few years and a whole lot of contractors later, Hartley's Haven was open for business. The park did, respectively enough, considering the out-of-way location, but profit was never the true intent of the park. No, Buck was, once again, fantasizing about killing. And this time, nothing would stop him, not so long as he drew breath. In this, his ultimate playground, he would kill and kill until someone killed him in turn. And in doing so, Buck would show the world what it chose when it picked Manic Moose. Speaking of Manic Moose, he's become something of a mascot for me. This is the first game where he has speaking lines, but I've set 3 games in this universe.